make sure you are seated upright on your buttocks. So begin this, take your glasses off. Begin this yogic process by connecting yourself to the ground, and balancing yourself upright on it. Connecting through the breath and senses to that ground and to all parts of the body. Connect to yourself. The breath is the means. So you connect. It already started this way, but it gets more and more connected. The brain itself gets connected to the ground, to the body, to the breath. Now, the yogis say there are 5 types of breath, by which they mean, oddly, that there is only one prana, but it expresses itself in 5 ways, each of which, has a name. So the first one, for our purposes, is that obvious one in the chest region, lungs, rib cage, diaphragm, the in and out breath. So from there, you see the effect, the touching of the breath everywhere. This is, just the, you might say, the mechanical region of breathing. But there is clearly a pelvic and abdominal, throat and head and extremity component too. So we say a second breath is the downward moving wash or movement of prana. Third, upward moving prana. Just think of inspiration. So those 3 are really important in yoga: physical functioning of the breath and the connectivity, lifting and inhaling, exhaling, or more subtly upward and downward. The other 2 directions are absorption, that is inward, like digestion, mental, physical, metabolic absorption, that's inward moving prana. And the 5th one is the prana that moves in all directions, outward, expansively. Join your palms. And draw your attention from the extremities back in to the core. So the core is back to this diaphragm heart zone. So we started there with the lungs and spread out from there in all directions. Now we drop back into the heart. In this way, pay homage to your practice. Pay homage to the root teacher, Patanjali. And bow to this practice, to your heart. And release your hands, raise your head, open your eyes. Stretch your legs. Fully strict, Dandasana. Hi, Anne. Okay, get a brick and a strap. And it's conceivable you'll need a blanket for a little bit of padding, but just put it to the side and save it in case you need it. Now, brick and strap aside, you lie on your back and you don't do anything. You just observe how the weight settles into the pelvis, the chest, and the head, and you've got a lightness. Maybe you have flesh contact, but you don't have weight in this waist area. The weight is pelvic and thoracic and cranial. So then, and it gets maybe even more pronounced when you stretch your legs. So let's do that, and then take the arms overhead. Supta Urdhva Hastasana. If you're stiff this way, you roll up that blanket, and if you need more, of course, you put a bolster in place and you put that under your wrists so you can stretch elbow straight. Now, lengthen yourself. So it would go under the wrists if needed. Also a chair, those chair legs right there, Chaya, you could hold with your hands, and or just the inner, outer, or inner wrist if you want to stretch your fingers. That might help as well. You hold it anywhere up the chair leg that is useful. Stretch the leg, stretch the heel, back the ankle, calf, knee, thigh. Open up that folded area between the buttock and the top thigh. There's an interior fold as much as the skin or flesh might be a little folded. Open up that bone there in the hip socket. Observe these directions of breath we watched at the beginning. The first breath being just the chest breath, rib cage inhale, exhale, lungs, diaphragm. Second, on the exhalation, principally, there's a downward direction that you might be able to feel through the groins to the feet, but at least you feel it to the pelvic floor. You also feel an upward direction, especially on the inhalation, but not exclusive to it. And that helps open up throat, head, chest. Right? So you've got just lung function breathing, and you've got downward direction and upward direction. Pretty simple. Roll those triceps. Keep your throat soft so the connectivity is clear. Then take your arms back down to your sides. We're going to Ekapada, Supta, Pavanmuktasana. Bend your right knee. Go carefully. Observe. Wait for 1 second with your foot on the floor. Foot on the floor. You want to observe. Actually, you might as well go back to the start. Stretch your leg out there. There is a certain pattern of breathing, even me calling your attention to downward, upward direction and just basic lung movement. Are your ribs moving when you breathe? Is your diaphragm moving, right? Those 3 directions. Now, when you bend your leg, there will be a change in the pattern. For an unprepared person, especially, or an injured person, or somebody worried about something or preoccupied with something, mental, physical, see if you can keep the action clean enough that your breathing pattern stays connected. Maybe you need an exhalation or an inhalation or some combination. Watch your movement, right? Make that transition smoothly. Don't treat it as not part of the work. Now, catch the shin or catch behind the knee, between the knee and the thigh, either way. And keep observing as you draw that thigh against the abdomen. Now, all of you are still stretching through that left leg, like good Iyengar yogis. Relax the right foot, draw the knee closer to your chest. Okay. Keep observing and just park in your mind where there are interruptions in the pattern. Exhale, come out slowly. Think first. Stretch your leg out. Now, restore normal breathing. Shouldn't take long. Stretch your legs, reconnect. Arms too if needed. Then, after a few connected breaths, you come back down, take side 2. Prepare yourself for bending the left knee. So you see if you can maintain the connectivity. Catch the knee when you're ready. And as you draw the knee toward the chest, maintain that right leg, the one on the floor. So it may limit you. This is something to observe. Okay, draw that thigh as deeply as you can against your abdomen without disturbing things. And then after a few breaths, trying to get your bearings and get the breathing correct, come out. Then we tried a second way. Watch. So now with the knees bent, the curve of the spine doesn't get exaggerated. There's a way for you to settle. So keeping both knees ground, settled to the ground, and open the chest, etc. So then when you go from here into Padangusthasana, in theory, you should be able to make much more contact and squeeze more deeply. Then this leg, and we pause to observe the downward movement, upward movement, basic circulation of breath, and stretch the leg. Okay, all the way, hopefully straight out on the floor. So this time we're fixing the bent leg first, and the Padangusthasana squeeze of the pelvis. Take your right leg up, fold as thoroughly as you can. People who have tendencies to cramps in the hip flexor, you could put a strap or a rope in there, or a little spacer if you need it. But in other respects, fold into the belly and use your exhalation to work your way underneath that compression, fill out that space. And then stretch your left leg and observe its effect. Heel on the floor. Stretch out. So did it drag your right leg, or could you keep the extension? Amelia, take your nose to your shin and come out. Side two, stretch both legs first. Then bend both knees, start from bent knee, release that abdomen spine, right? The posterior spinal muscles, anterior spinal muscles, and the front wall of the abdomen, all of it soft. And you can breathe pretty penetratingly. Now, take up the left knee, Padangusthasana. Draw it in, like squeeze by stages, squeeze that structural body, but still keep your breath traveling underneath, and observe where it's getting, you might say, constricted, bound, stuck. If you need a spacer in the hip, you take, and then stretch the right leg. Watch the breath. The leg on the floor stretches straight. Now, Amelia, you can do what you did last time if you like. Work with this breath. Okay, and release and come out. Now, belt, brick, lying on your back, elevate the hips. Don't just elevate the hips, but open up the chest in that elevation. So the first thing that happens when you tuck the shoulder blades, in theory, is the ribs open, the diaphragm spreads out, and you get sort of more space for this central inhalation and exhalation. And from there, the downward movement, upward movement, hopefully gets clear, easy. Then you can stretch your legs and do as we did before. This, of course, exaggerates a bit the lumbar curve structure, but that makes no difference to me if there's no pain, if there's connectivity, and if you have that effect of the breath being felt in the throat, as well as in the groin through to the feet. You could take your arms overhead. And you can also reverse the arm position and bring the arms to your sides. Observe your movement of breath. Push through the heel some, and as much as the toes push through the inner heel, the foot extend through the shin, tuck the outer thigh into the hip socket, and stretching the leg, stretch it connected to that hip socket, not away from it. The groin lengthens, but the thigh bones not being loose in the socket. Okay, bend the right knee. Okay. Now, you can't quite do Pavanmuktasana, but you can draw the knee up as far as you can. Use your hands, use a strap. That's why the strap is there. It might now start being more out of reach. Okay, keep your left leg straight. Keep the connectivity of breath down. You know, it's that fifth prana that goes out your toes. Just up on Vayu, just goes to the pelvic floor. Okay. Come out, change sides. Readjust that pose, tucking the shoulders. Lift your chest. If that brick's in, got slipped or you slipped on it, fix. Then make sure the chest is open and observe. Keep the restriction of breath. Well, sorry. Adjust so there is no restriction of breath. Then left knee comes up. Right leg stays straight. Now, the way to work with these poses is with the breathing. Exhaling. You can work your legs tremendously in these poses. The chest, the shoulders, the legs. Come out. Go back to the first side. Just bend exactly as you did. Bend the right leg, draw the knee up. No. Okay, so start over again and bend your knees. Go in the second way we went into the earlier pose. Bend both knees, try it. Yes, feet on the floor, feet on the floor. Then the right leg comes up, it's like last time. And put the strap now around your foot. Arch the foot. Catch from the inside of the leg. If you've got one hand here, if you're using two hands, catch from both sides. As if you're trying to do a Pavanmuktasana, right? There's some proximity there. Now open up that shin and then stretch the leg. Yes. Keep your pelvis on the brick. Don't let it tilt. So your leg, for some of you, is going to need to come back to vertical. Now begin stretching the left leg, the one on the floor. This can do a lot to solve the problem. Go to work with the breath. Lift that chest, drop your throat. Everybody stretch through that back leg. Open up the hamstring of the leg on the floor. Get it away from the buttock. Drop that groin. Okay, then fix the right leg. And watch the breath as you exhale, and don't raise your head off the floor, but push that lifted leg up to the ceiling and stretch your toes toward your head. You can take a bigger forward bend. Toes go toward the head. Leg stretches to the big toe. Leg goes toward the head. You keep exhaling into the pelvis. It's like you're trying to work your way into Hanumanasana. Good. Come out slowly. Go back to vertical. Bend just the lifted knee and stretch that leg back out on the floor. So you can't do Hanumanasana with bent legs. Go back to neutral. That means neutral on the brick, 2 legs straight. Chest lifted, arms overhead. If you need to, open up those shoulders, top, chest, throat. Rib cage. So superficially, that first breathing, so the chest is the lungs, ribs, diaphragm. More subtly, it is space around the heart, the elevation of the heart. So if that superficial stuff is going well, pressure comes off the heart. Space grows around the heart, meaning spread the ribs, the waist, spread the diaphragm, tuck the shoulder blades, all with an eye to lifting and expanding that interior space. The heart is physically attached to the diaphragm. So in effect, that ability to open and elevate that zone of the diaphragm lifts the heart. Are you ready for side 2? You can start with both knees bent. Okay. Take the left knee, left foot, strap around the foot, stretch the leg. Coordinate not with me, but with your own breath. The strap goes around that arch of the foot, makes it easier for you to extend the heel or toes as needed. And you stretch the leg on the floor. Lift your ribs. Connect the directions of breath. And begin drawing the stretched leg, lifted leg, toward your head by the straight leg. Go up there, straight leg. Draw and stretch the leg on the floor. Open that hamstring on the floor. Back of the knee on the floor. Reach to the heel through the big toe both. Use your breath. Connect to the lengthened foot. Do undo grips in that lifted leg hip that block the extension of the breath. Take the biggest stretch you can, like Hanumanasana, the split. And then release, come out. And as you come out, observe the alteration in the contact of the breath. Then come out, raise your hips, remove that brick. Lie flat for a second. You can even stretch your legs to make sure that spine feels undisturbed after being lifted. Then come out. And stand up. So that, instead of doing Supta Tadasana, we're going to do Tadasana. So stand there. I personally like putting my hands on my hips because it helps me with this tight neck and shoulders. It is easier for me to ground the arms, as I've been discussing in recent classes. Okay, this too is grounding the arms, but there's no physical ground, so it's more like a neurological ground. And this is neurophysical, right? It's the mind, the nerve, and also the weight of the arms is getting transmitted from the brain, from the spine. Okay. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Tuck your shirt in. Palms on the floor. Toes on the floor. Up you come. So this is a similar pose, just 2 legs, not one, with a fold at the hip. And you're carrying on a discussion with your breathing pattern. And your pose. So there's that basic lung movement. Make sure your back ribs are not being shoved or compressed. Make sure that breath fills the back ribs, side ribs, front ribs. And make sure your exhalation can stretch out your arms into the floor. Right? Your exhalation can also stretch out your waist all the way to the hips. The exhalation can connect your feet to the floor and into the hip sockets, connect between them. Use your breath. There's the downward movement toward that can go all the way to the feet. There's that movement all the way to the hands, to the head, to the pelvis. lower the heels in order to improve the permeability of your tissues. Wiggle your feet further back if needed, like toes a little farther away from the hands, perhaps a little closer, some of you, and you will improve the connectivity. Release, come out. Okay. So take a wall as needed. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Ekapada. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Now we're going to do something different from here, so watch for a second. The leg is going to come up, and then the leg is going to come into, let's call it upside down Pavanmuktasana. And then it'll go back up. Now, some of you don't need the wall. Some of you need the wall because that's the way you can straighten the leg. You have something to work with. Okay, so there's a couple of parts. I hope you catch them. There's dog pose. Then there's you finding your distance. So if you're not good with straight legs, you just have to get more away from the wall. Dog pose, or you're an Ekapada on your own. Part 2, part 3, fold in. So if you see this, my shoulders come forward, that's fine. I'm tucking though. And then I go back up or up. And then down, we'll rest. We'll do part 2. Go. Dog pose. Find where both legs can be straight. Up the wall. Leg up the wall. Or in the air. Even out the hips. Find your breathing pattern. And with an exhalation, bend the knee, let the spine lengthen, and bring that knee in. Lift your spine. Keep breathing. And then come on back out. Open up that hip. Open up that chest. And come on down. Take a complete break. Unless you're good at this, then dog pose. And then go back up, side 2. Left leg up. You can be free of the wall. Lift higher in if you want to be in a fully straight line. There you go. Toe to the wall or not. Extend. Square those hips gay. And then with an exhalation, don't go too fast. You want to watch how the breath works. Go with your breath. Fold in, lift your spine. Let the abdomen be round and soft as that knee comes in. The shoulders may be a bit forward. Keep breathing. Keep seeing if you can carve out some more space with that breath. And then come on out, open the leg back up, raise it as high as you can, and then come all the way out. Okay, rest. So that gets tight here. And to some degree, I want to create some, firmness here, but I don't want to overdo. So stand up. Find yourself a place you can hold on to. It could be a chair, could be a wall. What you want to do is bend, catch your right foot, the knee bent. If you have a very stiff knee, you could put a rope behind the knee, and that might help. So the instructions are, forget this leg after you've caught hold of it. Those I can see, you've got hold of your foot nicely. If you cannot, you need a strap. Anyway, straighten your Tadasana, standing leg, thigh vertical. Open that hamstring of your standing leg. Keep the pelvis upright. Find your breath direction. Now, maintaining that, pull up your foot and lengthen the front thigh. Watch that low back. Stretch your front thigh. Lengthen the shin toward your toes. And in that way, they may come more easily toward the buttocks. Similarly, lengthen that front thigh down. Keep your trunk lifting upright. Avoid that forward tilt in the trunk gay. If you, that's better, keep going. Lift from the pubis. And now carefully come out. Stand on 2 feet, recover the complete pose. And I'm thinking in terms of breath as well as structure. Yep, got to get the kinks out. Then side 2, left foot. So use whatever support is needed. You know, some of you I see are close to free balancing. And when you're having a good time at it, it's actually lovely. It's a very good connection with the breathing when you free balance, as opposed to attaching to a wall. Take up that left foot now. Left foot, catch the foot. Rather than the ankle, catch the foot itself. So you can lengthen the ankle. Yes, you kind of catch the arch of the foot, and it helps you stretch the shin, ankle. Straighten up that Tadasana. Stretch the hamstring of the standing leg. Lift the pubis. And do this in a way where often in these big adjustments, like you're really trying to lift the pubis, the breathing pattern is interrupted. It's the breathing pattern of a movement instead of an asana, a stable thing. It's the breath of changing things. So once you get in your new shape, you have to reestablish the breath. Okay, come out. Now, you might want a chair in front of you. Watch how I do this, and then I would love to see you guys from the side. So I put a brick or whatever I need, that would be whatever you need to do Virasana. And you're doing it facing a chair, and your side is toward the camera. I don't care which side, but a side. And then you prepare your place, and then don't make it so you have to turn your neck. So watch comfortably, but this is your starting pose. Cat. Just move out of the, you're in my shot. So you sit in Virasana, then you take your right leg, for me, that's the leg away from the camera. That's so you can see this leg also. And you're sort of in an upright Pavanmuktasana. And from here, you're going to put your foot on the chair. And we'll call this baby Kranchasana. We can do more with, sorry, don't even need the chair. Catching a strap around the foot. The foot comes up high against the abdomen. This is very Pavanmuktasana. See what I do? Foot on the floor. Strap around the foot. See how my right thigh is against my trunk. Ignore cat. Right thigh against trunk. Lift your trunk. Lengthen your spine. So some of you from here can stretch that leg, and others who have a difficult time, that's what the strap is for. So in this Kranchasana pose, find out what your breath is doing. In the chest, ribs, down to the pelvis, up to the head, out to your Virasana foot, out to that straight leg foot. Release, come out. Fold into the chest with that leg, passively or actively. Then you may stretch the leg before you bend it back to Virasana. Take care of your knee. And side two. So here you are. Hopefully that chair was useful for at least one phase of things, unless you're doing the full pose. Bend leg two. First, it just sits on the floor and it's already Pavanmuktasana time. So do not shove your spine against this thigh. Instead, lengthen your spine along the thigh. Lengthen the abdomen. It doesn't shove into it. It moves parallel to it. Then you catch the foot with the strap. Some of you will be able to hold with the feet. If you see this, my hands are on either side, one on the inside, one on the outside. So I corral that leg against my abdomen. And I see if I can create a parallel extension through this trunk. And then with the strap, maybe with the chair, maybe with a strap, maybe with your fingers, you go up. And that up should keep this contact here. And when you get deeply in the pose, it's a giant Pavanmuktasana. Bend the knee back into the chest. Watch that Virasana leg as well, and then come out. Stretch that leg and fold it back to Virasana. in Virasana, just sitting upright, you can observe, I hope, you've got a memory of that squeeze and extension. That impression might have good and bad elements to it, right? Me, for instance, it used to be a few years ago, I had digestive issues that made that kind of pressure unpleasant. But my spine really liked the shape, but my gallbladder didn't. So there was a thing that I did after this pose to regulate, and that is small twists. So you do small twists, use a belt, use this is something if you're sitting high in Virasana and you can't quite reach the knee, if you just put a belt behind your knee, you can hold the strap. Turn the other way, come back around, turn the other way. So I'm not discussing much in the way of sensations and breath patterns. You just watch in this twist and what happens. And come out. Okay, now we're gonna twist again. So watch. Cat. Here. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Virasana. Right leg up. Turn. Oh, chair behind you. If you don't have the convenience of these bars behind you, you put a chair behind you, and you're gonna lengthen your spine and lift your abdomen. Now, if you've got, there are many sorts of issues, but I'd say come away from this leg on your chair and lift your trunk up independent of this thigh. So look, this hand actually goes on top of this leg to push down and lift my ribs. Lean away, lift the ribs. Okay, and come out. Listen for a second. Let's see, go back to Virasana. Now, the pelvic part, in generally speaking, in twists, doesn't turn. The lumbar spine itself doesn't really twist. It has very little rotation. Where the twist begins is in the thoracic spine. So I'm pointing to the top lumbar, lower thoracic is here, lumbar's here, thoracic is here. So the twist begins, in theory, right at this level, which is not coincidentally just above the navel and the area of most rotation in the thoracic spine goes from the navel to the diaphragm. This section is the section that does most twisting, not all, but most, because you're limited here by the rib cage stiffness. And you're limited here by the fixing of the pelvis and the low back. So this middle body has to have space. That middle body is what is working on rotating. So so go into this Virasana twist. And keep the navel to diaphragm region elevated longer and breathing so that you get that lung breath and you get abdominal breath. Come out. Change sides. Still in Virasana, we'll bend the knee in a second. Go and work on that middle section there in Virasana. Just change sides. The chair behind you or some kind of elevated support. Lift those ribs. Now the pelvis doesn't change. So you're turning to your right side. So make sure that right buttock doesn't get dragged in the direction of the twist. Keep it stable. Lift from the navel to the diaphragm. Spread the diaphragm. Keep that mobility across the diaphragm, the elevation of the heart, freedom in the heart, and turn. Then come out. Okay, so when you bend the right leg, the rules are basically the same. The structure is a little bit different. So come up and make sure this region from navel to sternum is free. And then turn. So that diaphragm level, just below it and underneath it, how do those ribs spread? The underneath part of the heart zone, which is the apex of the diaphragm. And come out and stretch that leg and change sides. Left knee bends. You come up tall and you come up conscious of this interval. Now think about it. Your rib cage starts down here. You've got floating ribs, false ribs down here. But the diaphragm, the top part of the diaphragm is up here. The base of the heart is up here. So this middle zone has to expand and lift, right? Expand and lift this middle zone. So lift it, keep it separate from the thigh at first. So the whole circumference has movement. the base of the pelvis stays put. The chest just stays broad and expansive. Diaphragm stays open as it revolves. So you can move your liver, for instance, not stuck there. And come out. Okay. How'd that go? Is that okay? As a theoretically closed twist goes. I was trying to make it an open closed twist. If that makes any sense. Now, we have very few minutes left. So what I would like you to do is Chatushpadasana and a brick nearby, and those who need it, because I'm going to ask you to stretch your legs. So I'm taking this back. You want 2 bricks, one at the wall, maybe 3 bricks, 2 at the wall for underneath your feet, and then a 3rd one for under the hips. And anyone who needs, and if you want to sub out a bolster instead of bricks, but I think height is desirable. That's my feeling. So just get that chest open, however it happens. And that's true for anybody. It's an open-chested pose. I put a small blanket under my shoulders and head because it makes my neck relax. Setubanta, if you're confused, please watch. You need the distance from the wall to be correct. That's why experience helps. Cats don't. So you bring those heels in close and raise your hips. Feel free to stand on your fingers. If the heels don't ground on the very floor, then let them ground on your fingers or hands. So this is an effortful one. And then you take a Chatushpadasana. And then the next time you settle your hips on a brick and stretch your legs. So it's not a requirement that the heels go to the wall if you're on a bolster type arrangement, but often it helps when you're on bricks just because of the sense of smallness of brick matched by firmness of wall. Shoulders down, chest open. Now once you've adjusted and brought yourself into this pose anatomically, arms, legs, hands, feet, shoulder blades, spine, abdomen. And once you've opened that chest up and rib cage up structurally, now you can go to work and see how that breath is connecting. rib cage, lung breathing, simple, like physiological breath. How are those ribs doing? How are those lungs doing? Then from there, you find the effect of the breath, these 5 pranas, the exhalation, the downward wash, the inhalation, inspiration, upward lifting. It lifts, it washes the brain cells. Everything that the body or mind, or even the body or mind digests or absorbs, requires that inward moving prana. So you want to absorb learning, ideas. You need, your brain cells need that inward moving prana. Learning, digesting food, that's the easy one. And that outward expanding energy, you might think of that as your aura, but it's also a thing you, an energy you act in the world with. These pranas move with both inhalation and exhalation, though you may feel them more pronouncedly on one or the other. For those who do kumbhakas, that is the retention of breath, kumbhaka is, of course, where the deepest absorption occurs. You may stay here if this is comfortable and well supported for another minute or two. If this is bound in some way, begin to come out. So you can feel, in a sense, which of those directions of breath, which movement of breath might be problematic, blocked. Whether there's pain or no pain, you can, there's lots of sensations besides pain. So some people are better at digesting than they are at like at expelling. Some people are the opposite. Bring everybody, come out now. Unless you're going to stay past class, keep your practice and do more stuff. Come out now. Lie flat, be in something like Shavasana, your version. So let's just say it has to be a version that keeps your access to all 5 directions of all 5 types of breath. It's very lovely in Shavasana to be able to cultivate and open up this breathing in all these various directions, to be able to sense and observe. It is also nice to be able to do that sitting up, walking around, living life. Bring yourselves back. It is 1/4 the hour. You can stay put. You can sit up. So be alert that on December 5th, there will be an Austin Yoga Tree benefit class where a number of teachers will teach, and the Yoga Tree will ask for donations to assist the business in this time of COVID. Many things have happened. So, and if you know any details about this, it's 1 o'clock. Do you know if it's by Zoom or not Zoom? And hunting for the unmute. There you are. Oh, almost there. It keeps slipping back. That's weird. Can't hear. We might learn more later. That is all. Namaskar. But December 5th, Saturday, 1 o'clock, look for yoga tree information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Devon.
Thank you.